Anna, welcome.
Welcome. Hi, Bybars.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. And you?
Yes, thank you very much. I I couldn't see you in the list. I didn't check, so I sent a message to you. Sorry for
Yeah,
this.
but everything is okay. Everything is under control.
Great. Anna, let's start from your background a little bit, and then let's mention about the fintech book, which is very famous in the world, that you were co-author, and then let's come to your fintech world and hear more about it from you.
Yeah, so thank you, Bybars. First of all, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for having me. And I'm really pleased and delighted to be part of this WBAF Business School community, a group of really outstanding lecturers and faculty members. So about my journey in fintech, so it started 20 years ago, even before the fintech term was coined. And I tend to say that I was in fintech that early because I started at Citigroup and I was really pleased to introduce first mobile payments and first online payment gateway in the CEMEA region, also some of the mobile payment schemes and one of the very first mobile banking apps. So that was at the very beginning, a very hands-on and practical approach and experience, and definitely a combination of finance, banking, financial services, and technology. Of course, the technology was different because we started with SMS banking, with web applications, or with SIM toolkit, but definitely the logics was the same. And it's still in the fintech world that we want to create innovative solutions. And of course, we want to bring the customer experience into the next level in a way. So as I said, I'm a practitioner and I've been in payments and banking innovation for 20 years, having worked for big corporates like Citigroup, but also T-Mobile and PwC. So one of my recent roles includes being a fintech leader and driving entire fintech agenda in Europe for PwC, also being part of the PwC Startup Collider, the accelerator that put together corporate clients with fintech startups. And then now I'm gradually shifting into knowledge sharing. So I do advise, I just VCs and other investors, also corporate clients. I mentor some of the startups, fintech startups. I also lecture and teach, and I speak a lot. So I'm also a guest speaker at industry conferences. I'm also a guest lecturers at some of the universities. I teach at the Warsaw University of Technology. This is a program, MBA Finance and Technology program. And I have a tailor-made curriculum about fintech. And I'm also part of CFTE, Center for Finance, Technology and Entrepreneurship in London, when I curated and I teach two digital courses on open banking and conversation AI. And coming back to the fintech book you mentioned, so this is actually there are two books because I co-author Paytech book and I co-author AI book. So in the Paytech book, I wrote about the open banking and the potential of open banking, how it can transform payments, but also customer experience. And in the AI book, I wrote about conversation AI and its application to banking and finance. So this is exactly a series of very well-known and recognized books. Some of them are already bestsellers and best-selling books on Amazon. So Fintech book and Paytech book and AI book. And it's being published by Fintech Circle together with Wiley Publishing House. So yeah, and I'm also part of the European Innovation Council. This is last but not least when I do just evaluate a lot of startups, including fintechs, and we just decide, we discover the innovative companies across Europe, and definitely we decide on these companies to get financing from the EU, from the public money. So as you see, I just every year I see a lot of fintech startups and probably I've seen hundreds, even if not thousands of startups, tech startups, including fintechs. And I do build cooperation models between corporate clients and fintech startups in frames of open banking, in frames of the open innovation.
Okay, I am a startup and I want to, I hear financial technologies is a promising area. Banks are investing or taking companies inside of the bank, incubating them, etc. So I want to develop a fintech project, option A, or option B, I have a fintech project. Option C, I am the one of the executives of a bank, and we want to understand how the bank can develop from this fintech movement. There are three different profiles here. So your course is addressing to which one? Maybe none of them, maybe all of them. I don't know. Choose your best option.
No, for sure, all of them, because first of all, one of my principles is that we are talking here about very collaborative and innovative ecosystem. So ecosystem, this is a key word. So if we build ecosystem, we have a multi-stakeholder approach. We have also a kind of platform here, especially applied to open banking, which is a very hot trend in the fintech. But of course, this is generally speaking the trend in the tech world, because open APIs, this is a trophy of big tech, like Google, like Amazon, like Apple, of course, like Facebook. And my course, my fintech course, which is called Fintech Outlook, Trends and Technologies, this is quite an overview of like key trends, but also underlying technologies that are really hot. And I do combine like a consulting approach, so like a global strategic approach, but also hands-on experience. So this is a combination of my expertise and my experience, because I build these collaboration models and I know what is really hot, looking from the perspective of banks and financial institutions like incumbents who really do a lot of corporate innovation, open innovation. But also you mentioned partnerships and you mentioned the other parties, so basically fintech startups and entrepreneurs and founders. And basically there is a lot about this collaborative ecosystem, which is in common. And we talk about partnerships models. So I will just focus on partnerships models, how to build successful strategies, how to build successful collaboration models between banks and fintech. So you have these two parties into this equation. So it will be really relevant for both stakeholders, for banks, for corporate employees who are dealing with innovation, with open innovation, but also from fintech startups. Because we have like two different agendas here. So we have a kind of strategic agenda, which is common for banks, and also a kind of tactical agenda. This is how I call it, which is common for fintech startups. And they have to get together. They have to fit in a way. So definitely they have different perspectives, but no matter what perspective you take, this course will be definitely relevant for all the stakeholders, because it combines, as I said, this outlook, the global approach with the very practical experience. And having said that, nevertheless, that definitely will be also relevant for investors, because I will also cover investment landscape. So I will talk about the very like key trends in the investment scene, definitely about major deals, about what is hot in terms of the sectors, but also technologies for investor, who is attracting private money, who is attracting investors' money, and definitely about big deals, about mega rounds in different geographies, and about something that really ignites imagination of many people, so about unicorns. Fintech unicorns, but also even decacorns, so the companies that exceeds the valuation of 10 billions dollars.
I think understanding the importance of a working ecosystem, uh, I mean fintech ecosystem, let's say, or paytech ecosystem, because they are very relevant with each other. It is very important for startups and also banks and also governments, because in that way they can benefit more from this fintech movement. Uh, but after this COVID issue, what do you think about the importance of digital inclusion? Because now we are talking about if the digital infrastructure of the world economies are fine enough, because more important now than the fintech is maybe edutech and health tech are now seem more important nowadays. So what do you think about it? I mean, do you think the digital infrastructure is ready to support more fintech movements?
Absolutely. So, of course, my course falls under the agenda of business transformation courses. So definitely it's about business transformation, about digital transformation, open innovation or innovation, corporate innovation, but put in the context of fintech. But fintech, this is one of the very innovative tech sectors that's also transforming or impacting or absorbing other sectors. So this is a part of digital transformation agenda. And as we see, we all as tech companies, but also some other incumbent companies in different sectors, we embark on this journey early. But as we all witnessed during the pandemic situation, digital transformation has accelerated or has been accelerated due to the COVID-19. As you like to put it, Mr. COVID. So Mr. COVID changed a lot, and of course changed. There's like the best CTO or business sponsor or actor of a change. And of course, we used to talk about financial inclusion, which is a part of digital inclusion as well. But digital transformation that is happening in the world, if you just take the example of digital payments, but not only about the payments, which are at the heart, they are core of fintech, as you mentioned, paytech is very much at the heart of fintech. But definitely if we look farther beyond AI is a cross-sectoral technology, but I will also talk how it can be applied into finance and banking. If we talk about automation, RPA, robotic process automation, if we talk about data analytics, and of course, if we talk about voice navigating services, if we talk about chatbots and voice bots. So definitely this is a part of entire digital transformation, and fintech should be incorporated into this. And we see the change not only happening in companies, in banks, or in the industry as industry representatives, we also see how it really impacts people's life and how it does transform people's life. If we look how people just interact with banks, with financial services, how they do pay, but also how they communicate with banks, how they use chatbots, and the rise of messaging platforms, for example, or voice navigating platforms. So this is a part of module 1 of my course when I explain what are the driving forces, what are the drivers for fintech to be enabled. When I talk about the messaging platforms that are on the rise everywhere in the world, not only in Asia, when I talk about mobile first, and of course, when I talk about the changing landscape in terms of demography, in terms of social change, and digital inclusion is very much of importance. And of course, what we do, we don't only pay, we also shop, of course, online. We do almost everything now. So we interact with different services. And also we do learn and we do teach using the digital technologies nowadays. And you mentioned also that there are different stakeholders. They are not only banks, that are not only fintech startups or tech startups, but they are also just governments, public sector, academia. So different stakeholders into this, not only fintech, but digital ecosystem. So I'm always, when I talk, for example, about open banking, which is again, one of the very hot topics and hot technologies or trends. So definitely I always underline the importance of the collaboration and inclusion in terms of the collaborative and inclusive ecosystem that we want to create here. So if you took this perspective, so of course it can't be done without financial inclusion, but it can be done without digital inclusion. And I mean, sometimes I also use the term digital fitness, because you have to know how to use all these digital tools. And of course, it's not that easy for many people who don't have access. Of course, almost everybody has access to mobile phone, not necessarily a smartphone that can be program. And of course, you have a programmable tool and you can download different applications and you can use a lot of functions. But some people, they don't have just smartphones, they have mobile phones, for example, in India. That's why, for example, Google Pay, they launched audio QR codes to enable these people and basically to get them give them access to financial services. And this is one of the examples how technologies can transform people's life and their financial lives as well. And we'll definitely mention the big tech companies as well as stakeholders here. But to be digitally fit, it means that you are just empowered to use different digital technologies when you search for education, when you search for financial services, and even ourselves, we have to use different platforms, we have to use different navigating tools, and we really develop this digital fitness nowadays.
I think this pandemic business environment increased the importance of fintech. Uh, Nobody wants to touch uh, money. Everybody is trying to keep themselves a little bit, I mean, more distanced with touchable things. And financial technologies, I think, will be very supportive to the idea of keeping social distance from everything. So, do you think banks will invest more in fintech area?
Absolutely. So, of course, it starts with collaboration models, but there are different collaboration models that are not only partnerships, that are different types of incubators, accelerators, but also just direct investments into the fintech companies, including some acquisitions of fintech companies. But if we talk about the willingness or readiness of banks to invest in fintech, definitely we can talk about the particular companies, fintechs, but also about the fintech as a sector and the technologies. So you mentioned one of them, so digital payments. And of course, we all as consumers, not only as industry representatives, we witness that. So we see the shift into that digital payments. So first of all, cashless payments, because as you said, nobody wants to touch cash or touch anything. So this is a touch-free way of doing transactions, of making transactions, but definitely this is the beginning. So we have the cashless payments, but also digital payments in many different ways. We have biometrics, we have, of course, e-commerce, and we see the rise of e-commerce transactions, including online and mobile, in-app payments, and especially exactly the digital payments in the mobile, and also the voice navigated payments. So I will definitely touch upon that because this is connected to the conversation AI and the chatbots and voice bots that are also on the rise. So this is one of the first of the trends. And the other, you also touch upon that, this is exactly about the remote interacting with brands and with services, and also about automation. So banks are very much ready and willing to invest in artificial intelligence and RPA, robotic process automation. And even there are some trends showing and some reports showing, of course, that 2021 will be exactly the year of automation. Automation, of course, is also a source for savings for banks. So this is not only about being innovative, but this is like a tangible commercial impact here and a lot of savings because you can automate certain processes, not only in the back end, in the back office, but also in the front end, in the customer service. And again, this very much comes together with conversation AI when you interact remotely with virtual agents, with virtual assistants using either text, so messaging platforms, or email, but you can also write to the machine. You can also talk to the machine as well, and definitely using voice. And voice is exactly on the rise as well. We even talk about voice economy here. But in my course, in the module second, when I talk about the trends and underlying technologies, I will touch upon this main digital payments, open banking, open APIs, and AI, including conversation AI trends. So this is very much the year of change, not only 2020, but I'm looking forward to 2021 already, and in the coming years, that we'll definitely see a lot of acceleration in the remote technologies, in digital transformation, in digital payments.
Um, some years ago, for example, I was invited by a startup to invest in a digital payment system, and I was really interested in this. But unfortunately, when I see the regulations in Turkey, it was something illegal. I mean, it was impossible to make a transaction legally through this system. And I didn't invest. But some years later, regulations changed, and this startup became very popular in Turkey. So regulations, the let's say the environment, the legal environment is really changing the future of a startup venture in fintech area, I think. Um, and also it is something supportive or frustrating issue for investors too. So one of the main players in fintech area, I think, is policy makers or regulation makers, whatever. What I am feeling is after this, as you said, touch-free issue, when citizens are invited not to touch anything, I think regulators will be more keen to develop more practical regulative solutions to fintech issues. So I think there is a opportunity in this area. What do you think?
Sure. So first of all, we have to remember always that financial services, especially bankings and payment, is a very regulated area. And of course, there is a banking law from the very beginning, and banks are or have been regulated. But of course, if it comes to fintech, that was a kind of a gateway or a gap that was just breached by fintech because it was non-regulated area to the certain extent, because we see how it's being changed. So definitely there's a lot of regulations, generally speaking, but of course there are some specific regulations. If it comes to payments, if it comes to open banking, and we see this phenomenon of open banking because it was enabled by PSD2 in Europe or in the European Union. And of course there are some other geographies around the world. I will touch upon that also in the first module of my Fintech course, because if we talk about some drivers, we can't really just ignore regulatory drivers. And I used to say that regulation can be also a source for innovation. It's not only a limiting force, sometimes it's very empowering or enabling or just enabler for innovation to come. And it was the main objective for PSD2 to come in force, because basically it was the aim to open up the market for new players, for third-party providers, and basically to make this market more transparent, more competitive, and at the end of the day, more innovative as well. So coming back to different geographies, it's not only a European phenomenon, because we have Singapore, of course, we have Australia with a consumer data right, which really goes beyond banking. It covers also telcos, utilities, other sectors in terms of data um, processing. So definitely there are other geographies. And of course, there are more and more regulations to come, because we see how this landscape and how this environment is changing. And it's a fast-paced environment. So that's why we have also some EU, just a kind of a white paper on AI, when we talk not only from the point of view of banking and financial services, but other tech sectors. We talk about responsible AI, we talk about explainable AI, ethical AI, how of course algorithms should be created and how they should be explained to consumers. We talk about data protection, we talk about cybersecurity. There's also a new, a kind of indication from the EU on digital finance and digital finance agenda for Europe. So there's a lot of acts, and there is a lot of legal measures and actions. But of course, we should remember that this is very much liberating as well, because it can stimulate innovation. So we'll definitely see a lot of new players into this area. We talk about PSD3 already, about open finance. There is also a kind of advisory group in the UK working on open finance. So how we can integrate other sectors around banking, and of course around finance, like insurance, like pension plans, like wealth management. So it's a lot of happening, and it's very exciting. And definitely I will be excited to share my knowledge and my practical approach with my students. And probably last but not least, something about fintech, which is a very exciting and hot topic, not only for banking and financial services or even payments, but for entire tech world, because fintech has a lot of transformative powers or even superpowers. This is how I like to put it, because it can definitely transform people's life, and it's very much about inclusion and collaboration. But we also talk about the phenomenon of embedded finance or embedded payments, and it can really absorb other sectors or other verticals. If you look at real estate, if you look at travel, which is not a very good example nowadays in the pandemic, but even into the retail and education. So everywhere there are payments, and everywhere that are either lending or crediting services that can be connected to fintech, but definitely they are very much related with some of the events in the sectors that I mentioned. So this is a kind of embedded finance that can be really just found in other sectors. So this is the idea, and fintech has really transformative powers and power of impacting other sectors than financial services and banking per se.
Responsible finance is one of the issues of G20 agenda, by the way. So I think responsible finance and impact investment will be two keywords of the new normal. Let's say we have a question um, from Abdul Halik El Kasi. As fintech continue to evolve, technical advancements of big data, blockchain, and AI will cover more traditional banking functions. For these trends coming, what do you think for fintech entrepreneurs to compete in this industry?
Oh yeah, thank you for this question. This is kind of a general question, because there is a lot of technologies like big data and of course AI and blockchain mentioned, and they can be connected, but they definitely different technologies, and every of these technologies has its own specific. But how to compete? Definitely, this is very much dependent on the strategies, and I will also cover the successful strategies and the implementation in my course. So very much depends if you look from the perspective of the bank, and if you look from the perspective of the entrepreneur or funder, because you can either build a standalone venture, or you can just try to collaborate or to partner with the incumbents. So very much depends, because as we said, banks are very much ready and very much willing to invest in new players, but also invest in new technologies, and AI definitely, and big data is on the agendas. Blockchain very much depends, but also it applies to payments, it applies to cross-border payments, to peer-to-peer payments, but also to many other, also to crediting, many other areas, not only in financial services. So this is a very broad question, and definitely I can just showcase some of the example in my course. And so if you want to find out more about the successful strategies, so you can find out that in my course. So, and you mentioned, just coming back to your last question, Biber, so you mentioned impact investing, and definitely, so this is very much about sustainability and sustainable finance as well. So we will see much more of sustainable finance or impact investing, everything connected to that coming in the next year. And I think this is a kind of a trend as well. So if we talk about how finance and especially fintech can transform environmental approach, social approach. So this is very much related or connected to SDGs as well, Sustainable Development Goals created by United Nations. And we see this transformation, and we see how fintech and financial services, not only financial inclusion, can really just contribute to environment and social development.
I'm inviting all participants to visit the WBAF Business School website. Please go to course contents part, find business transformation document. Please download it, and you will see Anna's course there as a business transformation course. And please check it, because there are more details about the course in this document. You can also visit the registration area to have an idea about the course price. And if you have any questions, please feel all right to send a message to the Secretary General of the school, or get in contact directly with Anna through LinkedIn. Dear Anna, thank you very much for joining us. and
Thank you very
let's
much.
empower the world economy through financial technologies.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
very
you
much.
so much. Thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to your questions and also to seeing you all at my course. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
See you. Bye bye.